reminders before we start, there are microphones in the ceiling. So if you want everyone on Zoom to hear what you're whispering about to your neighbor, just remember they can't. We're going to try tonight to not use microphones. We will ask the presenters to project so that everyone can hear. If you are having trouble hearing, just raise your hand. We do have microphones around. It's just easier for the people on Zoom if we don't have to use them. Let's see. Do we have here any city council, state representatives? I believe I see. There we go.
Becky.
Becky. Thank you for being here. Anybody else that I am neglecting to mention? I do not want to neglect anybody. Okay, anyone who is an applicant for the District 5 board? Yes. Can you just stand up and tell us your name real quick?
Lives here in somewhere.
Welcome. Did I see another hand behind you?
I live in Maeser neighborhood.
Thank you for being here.
Alberto Polo, Joaquin neighborhood.
Bienvenido. Yes.
Reitzel, Timp neighborhood.
Lovely, we have so many. Anyone else? Okay, we'll continue. All right, we have a good little agenda tonight. I'm curious to see which of these items prompted so much turnout so we can do it again. I'm Daniel Friend. I'm the vice chair of the District 5. I'm filling in for our chair who is not here tonight. We'll start off with some information about the city trees programs by City Forester Chaz Addis.
Yeah, it's good to see everybody. This is a pretty good turnout. Last time I came, there's maybe half as many people, so it's pretty cool to see that you guys come together and get some of your neighborhood issues figured out and figure out exactly what's going on and what needs to be done. But I was asked to just present on our 1,000 Trees initiative and kind of well, we got a pretty decent government grant for grant funding that we've been currently working on. It took us about a year and a half or so to get the grant and then implement those funds into where we're actually planting trees. And about 2 months ago, we started planting trees from that grant, and we've planted about 112 trees at this point. My guys were out today. We planted 20 trees just today. And we're going to continue to plant this season until the ground freezes solid, and then after that, just move on until the ground is not frozen. Then we'll keep putting trees in. But the idea is to put trees into underserved neighborhoods. And I asked Rachel if she had the ability to show like our neighborhood map. Okay, so this is a map that Forestry, Fire, and State Lands developed for what they call underserved communities. I didn't have any buy-in or any say in where the outlining or the boundaries of this map include. They just kind of said, hey, we decided where underserved neighborhoods are throughout all the cities inside of Utah and throughout the country, really. And in Provo, there are some underserved neighborhoods, and you can apply for a grant. We did that. We applied for $370,000 for planting new trees, water-wise landscapes, and water-wise irrigation systems. And we got it. We got all $370,000 worth, and we have about 3 years to use it. And right now, we planted, like I said, 112 trees. So far. And all these trees add to that 1,000 Trees initiative. Before we started this, we had about 383 trees of that 1,000 trees, and now we're just shy of 500. So we're getting there fast.
On this map, is it the shaded areas?
Yeah, the shaded areas, sorry, should have said that. Yeah, but the areas that are shaded are considered underserved. And I realize that there are a bunch of neighborhoods outside of those zones that I would consider underserved as well, but the federal government made the map and we're just following it. So we're gonna put as many trees inside of these shaded areas as we possibly can with that $370,000. And with that, we're gonna try and tell a story in hopes to get another grant, you know, of the similar, in the similar vein, probably not as big, moving on down the line, but hopefully something, you know, so we can keep planting trees. I mean, if the government's gonna give us money to put more trees in, we're gonna do it, so. Besides that, yeah,
Can we give you suggestions?
absolutely.
Like Maeser Park?
The Maeser Park
Yes, it
within,
is.
yeah, any part of the park system we can. We have already planted, I think 53 of the 112 trees we planted so far are inside of park systems. We did some in West Park that they're redoing over here. We did a bunch around the cemetery and we looked, we put a few in Joaquin and some different spots.
In that small pocket park or where?
Yeah.
How about Memorial Park? Does that need trees?
Yeah, all the parks kind of need some trees and I'm working with the parks department to get as many as we can. That's kind of where you guys come into if your neighborhoods want to do a planting project, want to see more trees in certain parts of your neighborhood. This will include the park strip and any front yard areas that aren't fenced in, like a fenced in backyard or side yard. So it can be like a low front yard fence or whatever, but it has to be kind of a front yard or park strip type area. To be re-landscaped with trees. So if you guys have any spots like that throughout your neighborhoods that you would like to see new trees in, and what we are planting is it's 2-inch caliper trees. They're not little saplings. They're not anything small. We want to put them in big and we want to put them in healthy.
I'm thinking of a corner I know where the sidewalk is right next to the road and then there's grass between the sidewalk and a wall. Would that qualify as a park strip type area?
It's not necessarily a park strip, but that is an area we would, you know, we'd look at planting it for sure.
How are we getting the word out about this? Like, is it on social media? Do we just go tell our neighbors? And then if they're interested, how do we get them connected with this program?
So the best way right now is just to get a hold of the forestry department, let me know that that you guys are interested. We are putting out some social media stuff. We're working with Channel 17 to do some different things in order to get the word out even more. I've just personally been canvassing neighborhoods to try and get some buy-in on a personal level. That's kind of what I was hoping for. And I found that I've had some success with that, but there are a lot of neighborhoods and a lot of homes that are rentals.
Right.
And it's been really kind of challenging to get buy-in from the actual homeowners.
Right.
And people of that nature to, you know, to try and get the trees put in that we want to see it. And one of the problems we do run into with that is there's limited or no irrigation to some of these spots. And we can help with above ground irrigation, you know, like sprinkler heads or drip emitters and like the netafin piping, stuff like that, but we can't do the PVC. So we would need the residents or business owners or, you know, customers or whatever to put in kind of the infrastructure for that watering apparatus so that we can get water to them. Or at least if they're not gonna have any sort of watering whatsoever, we like those people to own the home. That way we don't put the tree in, you know, and they rent for 2 months and then they're gone and then that tree dies, right? So we just wanna make sure if we are putting trees in that they are being watered. That's kind of our biggest priority, but other than that, we're just looking to reforest or forest any of these areas because the ultimate goal of forestry in Provo is to have tree-lined streets and to have as much canopy coverage as possible, to eliminate as many heat islands as we possibly can, and you know, just have more forested areas, more pleasant to live in. So,
Are you in charge of the trimming too on the trees?
yeah,
Your department? Because our neighborhood is a little underserved when it comes to that. We have a lot of older trees and trimming that it kind of drags out onto the street.
Sure, yeah, you can give us
Send
a
me a
call
list
if it's underneath 13 above the roadway or 8 feet above the sidewalk. We do take care of that sort of thing. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of manpower, so we have about 30,000 trees within the park system, 15,000 within the park strip system, and then an untold number within our utility forest. So all those trees, and I've got 12 guys. So we do the best we can, but it's really kind of hard to take care of every tree, especially if we're looking at it from like a aesthetic standpoint or something like that. All we're trying to do really is make sure we get to all the danger and hazard trees, make sure they're 13 above the roadway, 8 feet above the sidewalk. And yeah, just make sure there's nothing dead existing in that park strip or any public areas. We realize that does exist out there and we get to it as quick as we can, but unfortunately at this point, a little more reactive than proactive, but we always strive to be more proactive. So anything else, guys? Okay, well, I appreciate your time. Like I said, if you guys have trees that you guys want to see inside of your neighborhoods, just get rid of or get a hold from Forest Department, Chaz, Addis, and just let me know where those trees need to go. Thank you.
Now for a couple of zoning items, perhaps that's what some of you are here for. Rachel Breen will introduce each of the people who are presenting. The first zoning change applies to the former Bill Harris Music Site. And the second one is about building a bakery across from White Shanty Venue in Franklin neighborhood. Rachel, take it away.
Thank you. Okay, first of all, we just want to make sure that everyone is respectful to the developers. They're not required to attend our meetings, so we're really thankful when they do. Things to consider as they're presenting are what are the potential benefits or potential downsides of their proposed project or proposed ordinance change, and why is the change better than what currently exists? A question we always get is, can we ask for a development agreement? The answer is no. Residents and city staff cannot ask for a development agreement, but you can ask, how are you going to guarantee to address my concerns? And then if you have any questions on this, if you grabbed an agenda, the city planner's contact information is on there. And this one here, so this first project, this is a ordinance that affects the general downtown zone. And I think they're specifically doing it for their project at the Bill Harris Music lot. It was supposed to go to Planning Commission last week. It was supposed to go to Planning Commission last week, but they ran out of time. So it'll probably go December 11th on that. So this is kind of where they're at. They've applied, they're done their reviews, they need to go to the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission will make a recommendation, and then it'll go to the City Council, which makes the final decision. And we'll just turn it over to, is Jeff Knighton?
Yep,
Awesome.
that's me.
Okay, he's gonna talk about his proposed ordinance.
Awesome, thank you.
So yeah, my name is Jeff Knighton. I grew up, born and raised in Provo, in the Edgemont neighborhood. One of my cousins lived in the Franklin neighborhood, one of my best friends. And I'm an architect with my offices here on Center Street as well, and in the Provo Town Square buildings just on University Avenue. So I love downtown Provo. It's home for me. And I am working with a development group that has recently gone under contract for the Bill Harris site. It's been a site that's been looked at by previous developers a couple of times, I think, and passed around. It was then made available to acquire. And so I work with several developers that do projects here in Provo. And so I'm working with the group, and we're really early on in the concept development, but one of the things that we identified in the current code were really two little things that we wanted to, that I met with Aaron and suggested to the staff that maybe we tweak in the language of the zoning code. The first one, if there's a requirement for a minimum unit size and area. We have slides that show the language on that. If not, I can just explain it, but
You told me no
I didn't have any
slides.
slides. I think Aaron might have the ones for the planning commission. Yeah. And it's, I can explain it either way, but basically there's in the code for the DT1 zone, it says there's a minimum average unit size unless you're on Center Street and you provide a mixed use project. And so what I proposed is if we can apply that to also University Avenue. And the idea for that is that you can then provide a broader range on the unit sizes. So the area, the square footage of the units, to allow more flexibility on the unit design. So that was the one request. It's just the exception that applies to Center Street would also apply to properties on University Avenue. And then the other one is related to building height. If the current building height maximum is 100 feet, and so we talked about if we provide some for sale units as well as part of the project, can there be any increases in the building height? So the DT1 zone, maximum height is 100 feet. DT2 goes up to 180 feet. And so what we worked out with the staff and the language that's being proposed is kind of a grading, an escalating scale, so to speak, of the more units you provide that are for sale, the more allowances for some increased height in the zone. And again, we're really early in the concept on what we would do with that property, but the idea would be to provide a pretty broad range of unit types. We're looking at even a senior housing component, assisted living, a portion of it for student, and then a bunch of market rate like family apartments, and then for sale condominiums. So the idea is that within that block, you can provide kind of a broad range of different types of units and different demographics to be served with the project. And so having that, yeah, so the blue is kind of this proposed language that if you provide 10 to 20% for sale housing, you can go up to 120, 20 to 30, up to 140. So kind of the more for sale housing you provide, the more increases in height you could accommodate in the zone. I can tell you from our perspective, where we're looking at the Bill Harris block, I don't think we're entertaining anything over 120 feet. So we would be getting into this range, but the DT2 zone does allow you to go to 180. So it seems like this could provide kind of some kind of transition between, because those two zones kind of intermingle quite a bit. And so if there's a varying height, and I know one of the city's goals is to provide for sale housing. It's something we're trying to provide to with the project. So that's in relation to the height, and then we have the language for the unit size. It's right here. Yeah, there it is. So this is the way the code reads right now. Mixed use developments fronting Center Street, and we're just adding or University Avenue. Shall provide a minimum residential unit size of no less than 500 square feet. That's not changed, and it's 600 square feet. If you're not on Center Street or University, the average unit size needs to be 800 square feet. And we've looked at a lot of projects. We're involved in several projects right now where again, where we're trying to provide a range. If you can provide some, studios. So like right now, this you wouldn't really be able to do any studio apartments at that size, and so we're thinking then we can provide some studios and some larger units. Yeah.
So by adding University Avenue in there, that's just for the downtown area, not the entire length of University Avenue?
Correct. Only in the DT1 zone.
Okay.
Only the DT1 zone.
Thanks for that.
Yep.
And are you proposing to remove with ground floor commercial?
Ground floor commercial, it still says mixed use, but not ground floor commercial. Just to allow some flexibility on where potentially that commercial might go, or how that product might be used. As you guys are probably aware right now, so ground floor retail is not so bad. Office space right now is, there's a lot of vacant office space. So we're trying to find other creative ways to still provide a mix of uses that are viable to.
Is it too early to talk about parking? What, are you thinking structure? Are you thinking above parking for the developments?
So for the project specifically, yeah, we're looking at a structured parking.
How big is that property? What, how many square feet?
I don't remember off the top of my head. It's a great question. The property that's for sale, it's kind of shaped like a reversed Utah shape. The one that's used to be a pawn shop, I think maybe a car dealership now is not part of this contiguous property that's under contract and made available. So it's not actually the entire block that we're looking at currently.
But most of it.
Most of it. Yeah, here the, yeah.
Just to make sure I understand, when we're talking about for sale properties, we're not necessarily talking about owner occupied properties. So it could be people from out of town purchasing it and renting it out. I just want to make sure I'm understanding what you mean when you say that.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's a good distinction. We haven't really talked about that in terms of the difference between the two. I assumed owner occupied. They're not being viewed as like, hey, we'll build these for sale and then use them as like a vacation rental or anything like that. The assumption is owner occupied. It doesn't, obviously this language in the code doesn't require that. Yeah, well, sorry, here then here. Yeah, you had your hand up.
Just, do you have any idea what you probably do? How many floors is that 880 feet?
So 180 feet, usually the ground floor is about, so the city requires a ground floor, I think of 15 feet to 16 feet. And then usually when you're building, if you're building housing, you're usually going 10 feet floor to floor. So 180 feet would be up 17 stories potentially, tall building. Yeah, obviously there's nothing like that right now. And like I said, DT2 zone currently does allow for that height. We talked about parking. The trick is if you build to that height, you're gonna have to provide parking required in the code too, which would be an enormous amount of parking as well. So far, in Provo, we haven't seen a project by that ambitious yet. Sorry, yeah, I think you were, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's really important to change it from for sale to owner occupied. That's also in alignment with Provo's goals is owner occupied, not for sale. Another thing, I need more clarity on the with ground floor commercial. For your project, what would you like to do on the ground floor instead of commercial? I understand you want to put office space elsewhere, but
yeah. So currently what we're looking at is a lot of ground floor, like brownstone residences. And then some of the like amenities and things like that. And then some corner like commercial spots as well. Like on the more active, the more busy corners, do a smaller, like do a commercial space on those busier corners. On the interior streets or on the quieter streets, that's where we're trying to put more ground floor units, walk-up units. So you have kind of eyes on the street.
Yeah, and I think I would be opposed to striking that from the code as well. I think it makes sense what you want to do, but with ground floor commercial, I think is important so that we don't have other people down the road putting no ground floor commercial and just putting some office spaces in the top. Yeah.
I might address that.
Yeah, go for it. I think I was maybe gonna say the same thing.
Ardmore, with the planning staff. So, really the base of being okay with removing that is it's redundant with the design standards of the downtown zone.
Because mixed use is defined.
Right, so every first floor throughout the DT zone has to be built to a commercial standard. And there are different elements of that with entries and windows and things like that, floor height. So that requirement was kind of redundant, so we felt like it was okay to remove that.
No, I was gonna say the same thing. We still have to develop to the ground floor commercial standard on the ground floor no matter what already. Yeah.
This is really dense, but do you have any kind of landscaping requirements for this project?
The city code does, yeah, the city has.
So you're required to have like a small percentage of some kind of.
Landscape area, outdoor
something.
amenity spaces.
Okay.
So it seems like 10 to 20% of your for sale or owner occupied potentially, that's the current plan is 10 to 20%. So if this DT2 were not extended to, or sorry, DT1 were not extended to DT2, and you were only allowed 100 feet, would your percentage of for sale housing remain the same in that scenario?
Let me make sure I
If you
understood.
only do 100 feet, would you still keep your same percentage the same?
If we could only do 120, if we could only go to 100 feet, we would still be doing some for sale units. And I think we're still in that same range, that 10 to 20%. Did that answer?
Would going up that high obscure the views of the temple and downtown as you're coming in over the viaduct there?
From the viaduct,
Probably.
I think whether it's 100 feet or 120 feet, I think it would to a degree, because the viaduct, I believe, is like 20 to 30 feet, maybe 30 feet up in the air.
Is there kind of a setback requirement on University Avenue?
There's not a step back. There is on Center Street because of the historic nature of some of the buildings on Center Street. There's not on University Avenue. If, for what it's worth, the concept we have right now, the height is not right on the edge of University. It's more mid-block.
It would be down to that concept.
That's not currently written that way. Down there. Sure.
You mentioned a diverse, like
Housing mix,
housing,
yeah,
yeah,
mix.
mix of people. I noticed you threw out the word student. Why student? Why would you want to pull students down there? And when you say student, what do you mean?
So student, yeah, like intentionally setting it up, so like student housing where you have a different person for each bedroom. So part of it is just, again, they're one of the demographics that is short on housing right now too. And because of the proximity to the BRT line and the front runner line, we felt like this is actually a great spot, close to downtown. They can walk, to the stores and things like that here. It helps facilitate students that don't want to bring a car or can't bring a car, that they can live there, they can easily get to campus. And honestly, a lot of the student population living in Provo is going to UVU. And so they still have good connections, whether it's the front runner or the BRT line to get to UVU. Yeah.
I just want to say I'm a student at BYU currently. And if I was looking for a place, I think that would be a good location in Provo.
Awesome. Okay. Any other questions? Did I get everybody's questions? Yeah.
What housing studies have been done lately in Provo to know what type of housing, what type of housing is needed?
I don't know that I can speak broadly to Provo, or maybe what the city's been looking at. I know like what our team is looking at is, again, it's just a range. And I have more of an understanding broadly in our region. It's honestly, it's everything. Like right now, it's like we talked about the students. I teach a class at BYU as an adjunct teacher, and that's come up a lot with our students. And I have a couple of students that work in our office. They're hurting. We've got young families, young married couples that are trying to find housing. And then part of it too, we were, one of the things I've had this idea for years. Whenever the church builds a temple, typically you see a bunch of senior housings sprout up around that temple. And we have this nice urban temple here in downtown Provo. And I've been waiting to see who brings the seniors here closer to the temple so they can, and so that's part of the project too, is to bring assisted living and other senior housing to it as well. To get people who want to downsize but still live here close to downtown Provo, close to temple and other things like that. I don't know, I mean, I haven't personally done an in-depth market study, but those are the conversations that I'm hearing and part of. And I think it's fairly well, it's just there's housing needs across the board. And so that's the idea of the project. We can try to address multiple needs and not just have one housing type. Some of the previous development proposals for that block, it was a pretty monolithic approach to the units. And so we're trying to broaden that spectrum out, capture a broader demographic of
people that could be housed on that block.
Aaron, I'm just seeking clarity. I'm looking at the zoning map between DT2 and DT1 and looking at the language here fronting University. Can we see a map of where this change would extend to? Is it the entirety of DT1 or is it just?
These changes would apply to the whole zone. They're all over the DT1 zone.
Okay, so like 100 west and like 4th south could have 180 or 120-foot building someday.
Yeah, if this got passed, they could take advantage of that.
Okay.
Yeah, I
So
think it goes up
that's-
to like 6 north.
It's a pretty big zone, just for everyone's maps awareness.
Can you pull that up?
You don't want.
Yeah, maybe Rachel.
Question.
Sure.
Did you mention roughly what percentage would be for sale versus rental?
Again, we're still really like, it's still very preliminary. It's in that 10 to 20% range.
I just love, I've heard from so many people who are like ready to buy something but can't afford a house. They're like, I would love to stay in downtown Provo, but they're sick of renting, so I would
So this is for the DT1.
DT1, which is this zone. Then the University.
Just got her.
Yeah. So it would affect this right here. And then the DT2 allows up to 180. I would say again, I don't really see, there's a couple of constraints that will prevent this from like instantly all of a sudden seeing a bunch of skyscrapers. A couple things is you gotta acquire enough property to like park it, right? So you still have the parking requirements. And to get like these little parcels built at that height and park it is totally infeasible. So someone would have to acquire that whole block. And so the Harris block is a unique one where so much of it is already kind of combined. So if somebody wanted to do that in the future on these zones, they would have to consolidate multiple parcels in order to get a building to that height with enough parking, with enough access and meeting all the other code requirements. It would be a real challenge to do that without having the whole block.
Do you have any idea how many people may be there? About traffic, have you checked
How many people would live in the project? We don't have like a total unit count. Again, like the traffic would be, the parking would be addressed through the parking requirements in the city code. And the nice thing is we're right on those big public transportation lines, right? And you're right on University, you're close to the freeways and stuff, so.
But they're still gonna use their car. I guarantee you that.
Some of them will for sure, yeah.
Generally, I'm very supportive of this project and I think these are reasonable requests for changes. As far as I think parking is always going to be an issue. I think traffic, there's so many more people moving through this area than what would be generated here. I think like the impact on traffic would be fairly negligible. Can you point to which block is the?
Trying to. We need the streets labeled on here. Center Street.
It's right out that purple square there, just there.
And I almost don't want to ask this because I think we need to be sensitive to time and also I'm generally supportive. Been hearing a lot of like good. Almost a little bit getting building this all, one building rather than that more granular. As an architect.
Yes, if you're exactly right. And urban design is I have my bachelor's degree from BYU in urban planning. What we're looking at again in concept is multiple buildings, not one monolithic building that would take the whole block. you do, for parking reasons, parking stalls are about, for a structured parking garage. The lowest cost right now is about 30 grand per stall to build structured parking. And so the more efficient way to do parking is to do it in a block, right? As rectangle, get it as square as we can. So what we're looking at is having parking, but wrapping it so you wouldn't see parking. But that does require a certain level of mass for a building, but we're still trying to break it up and create mid-block alleys and connections and things like that to get to more of that granular scale. So then the ground floor units and activation that we're trying to do is truly activated and not just.
Sounds great.
Thank you. Yep.
I really support this as well. I think it would be interesting, as you're proposing these changes to the code, if you could also propose incentives for sustainable development like this, like maybe an incentive, not just percent of owner occupied, but also percent small units. So like, say, if you have 10% are 600 square feet, or less, then you get to go higher, or like some sort of incentive structure, I think would be really cool to implement.
I would love that one. We would love to provide some additional smaller units, because again, it gets to the affordability, and what we would be looking at here is not a monolithic block of all micro units, but there is a demographic where micro units are what they can afford. And we're doing a project right now in Salt Lake that's next to a track station where they are micro units. The studios are 300 square feet, they're tiny, but there's a massive demand for them. And I was talking to a good buddy of mine who's going through divorce, and he's like, I would love to have something like that that's small, it's affordable, sustainable. I don't need a lot of space, right? So there's a group of people that can use that and need that. I would say currently the way the city code is written, Provo, it makes it harder. Like we would still have 500 square feet is the smallest unit we can do without further changing that. We don't want to push too hard on too many things, but again, you wouldn't want to do a whole project here with that many unit sizes. But if you can provide that mix, if you can provide some that address the need of people who can, that's what they can afford, or that's what they need right now, is something small and compact. Be great to be able to have those options.
I think the diversity of unit size also cushions your risk a bit.
Yeah,
and so I think that's good as well.
And again, kind of what you want to do is you just don't want a monolithic demographic in the block, right? You want to have that range. I think it makes for it's a better neighborhood, a better environment. Yeah. You've got a broader range of ages and circumstances in life. So. Great questions. Is that it? I gotta run to my daughter's choir concert. I'm gonna be in trouble soon. Okay, thank you guys.
So this next one is in the idea phase. Nothing has been applied for yet. Nothing is set in stone. It's purely an idea, but they wanted to come before the residents to kind of get your opinion on a project that they want to do. So, so Natalie.
Thank you, Rachel. Yes, we are absolutely in the planning phase. We currently own the White Shanty, which is here, south. And we bought the property just to the north there that Rachel's circling. And there was a home on there, but it was really old and dilapidated. So permitted with the city to take that home down. And now it's currently zoned
R16.
So good with this. It's currently zoned residential, and we're hoping to get it zoned commercial because we would love to build a bakery on it, on that property. So this is just sort of a mock-up. We don't have, obviously we haven't drawn up really plans because we don't even know if it's okay. But this would be facing south towards the White Shanty. And this is the corner, 3rd west, 5th south. And then this is sort of the different angle view. And obviously we would have parking. We're hoping to have an entrance here on 3rd West as well as on 5th South. And have a little bit of outdoor dining area and potentially a residence upstairs or just office space or something. It just looked better design wise. We felt to have it 2 stories. And anybody we've talked to has felt like it'd be a really enhancing addition to the neighborhood and kind of a fun thing. Can you go back, Rachel, to the zoning part? Okay, so we are, the White Shanty is here, obviously a business. This is commercial right next door. It's good I'm long, huh, Rachel? So just to the west of it is commercial. And then of course, this is commercial. That's the Burt Brothers Tire. So we are in a zoned residential area, but we're also surrounded by commercial properties. So nobody has more incentive than we do at the White Shanty to make it pleasing and pretty and, you know, hopefully a nice addition, because what we're known for is our big glass sliding barn doors that look right where that spot is. So I think you can be sure nobody would care more than we do what it looks like and what the traffic is like and what the impact is like. One idea for the bakery is it would be open during daytime hours, and then the evening hours it would provide more parking for the White Shanty, which the White Shanty is currently in this transportation zone. So we're not required to have tons of parking. So we can always use a few more spots. Rachel.
I just had a question for Aaron, the planner, since he's here. So would she want to do commercial or increase the ITOD zone? And what exactly is an ITOD zone?
So
Yeah,
yeah, you can.
please come. Yeah. Take the floor.
Alright, so this area, it was part of, so you're seeing the general plan, it was also part of the Franklin plan, which identified the block for certain use. And now it's part of a station area plan that will be coming to the city council that identifies the certain use. So all 3 of those plans identify residential use, so we'd have to talk through that. But as far as commercial zones, there's a number of zones that could potentially work for what they're trying to do. They could do a general commercial zone. They could expand the TOD, transit-oriented development zone. They could use mixed-use zone, possibly. So it really depends on what they came in with. And we'd react to that according to the adopted plans that we have in the city for that area.
Just to verify, so the future land use map for the neighborhood plan calls for that as residential lot conversion?
It does currently.
If I could, just a couple thoughts, I guess, for the group as well as for the planner.
I was like, I don't know.
So I've been involved a little bit with some of these neighborhood plans, and I fully support this effort. I generally have a hard time, particularly when things are actively being developed or recently developed. I have a hard time like going against them. I think when we make these plans, we should stick to them. But I'm looking at this, and I had Google Street View up and whatnot, and I almost kind of scratched my head a little bit, like, why do we have 3 different plans that kind of identify that the best use for that corner is residential? I mean, it seems to me that commercial makes so much sense that it makes me that none of our planning efforts looked at that and said, you know what, that's actually something better, you know, commercial would be better than residential. Generally, I love the idea, so I think I'd be supportive, and particularly if these plans aren't finished, maybe we can go back and look at that and say like, does it make sense for it to not be residential? The other just general thought, and you know, I know these are not simple changes, but I think things like corner bakery or a small, like even convenience store with some groceries or whatever, I think that's very compatible in a residential area. I think we would actually be well served in our larger residential areas if we had some of these corner store type. You know, so if anything, I'm just, I know it's big picture or whatever, but you know, throwing out, like, do we want to look at our residential zones and see if corner stores should be an allowed use?
So no, I agree with everything you're saying, David. A bit of history on where we're at with these general plans. So the Franklin plan came before the general plan map update. That was just last year. And I was part of that Franklin plan process. They really wanted to make sure there was an effort to not allow the downtown communities in the downtown that doesn't kind of keep creeping. So that's why those hard lines were made. The principles and everything you're saying, I agree with. We would just have to look at those things.
Thank you, and he's not even like my brother or my friend or. But thanks, I love your comments.
I was just gonna say, kudos for coming with the idea first to the community meeting. I appreciate that. Because sometimes I think folks just show up with some pre-approval stuff. So I really appreciate the show for input. Second was, I walked this road with my dogs for years now. I knew the fellow that lived there, his caretaker, and I think he's into this idea, rest his soul. But I'm into this idea as well, fully supportive of it. As someone who walks on this street with my dogs, lives in the neighborhood, I think it's a lovely idea, and I'd love to see it happen.
Great. Thank you. Jess?
I like the idea of having a bakery there, partially because it's close to the front runner and the Amtrak station, and also because it's another bakery. But I'm sorry, I don't know. What is the White Shanty?
Oh, I'm sorry, it's a wedding and event space. Yeah, so we also thought that those can kind of go hand in hand and have hungry people that show up there and get to
yeah, and I do like the idea of outdoor seating and the big shade trees.
Yeah, like, yes.
I live around the corner and I think it is perfect. I think it's so fun to add more to the neighborhood. I think you have your coffee shop just like what the next street over. So fun to be able to walk your dog. I walk my dog around the corner all the time too. To be able to walk your dog down there, be able to go get, you know, cookies, soda, whatever you want. And just to be able to spruce it up a little bit. I know some parts of that neighborhood are a little different. So I think that would be so fun. I love it.
Awesome. Well, please come by and put a donut.
I will.
I just wanted to echo the support. I think more neighborhoods should have corner convenience or corner bakeries that serves people, gets them out of their houses. Also, that is a neighborhood bikeway. So if this does happen, you should have lots of bike parking because there's a new intersection, a bike intersection that has just been installed.
Oh, is that what the light is for? The light is confusing.
Yes, it's for the bike.
Oh, that makes sense, because there's a median, so I was like, what's the light
and that's to
for?
direct cyclists to the front runner.
That makes sense.
To the front runner. So if you set yourself up as like, this is the place you go before you hop onto the front runner on your bike, you would be very successful in the cycling community.
A really cute bike rack out there.
Yes. And it's close to the Amtrak station too, so
yeah, it's very close.
Unfortunately, a lot of like the front runner stations, there aren't amenities on the stations, so to be close and to have amenities available, like at times where all the other shops are closed in the morning would be so helpful for bike commuters and commuters in general.
Yes.
I was just recently in upstate New York, and there's a town up there, and it's like Rust Belt kind of around Binghamton. And these towns are really dying up there. And this one woman, I was so impressed. She's so creative, and she has a bakery, and this whole town has just completely just encouraged her, supported her, and she's doing great things. And this one bakery is changing this town and making it more on the map, and everyone wants to come, and you know, she's making all these things for farmers markets all over the area. And it's amazing to me how one bakery can make a difference, you know, in kind of the morale, or not the morale, but just the
vibe
just the vibe of the town, yeah, and the area, neighborhood. So
that's really what we're hoping. And like you said, just to get out of your homes and maybe meet your neighbors and meet
another place.
Right, yes.
I really love the idea. With the two properties serving each other, catering or parking, vice versa. I used to use 500 South a lot when I would commute on the freeway. I would use it as an alternative to the freeway. And so I think it gets a fair amount of vehicle traffic. Concerned, like what that
Yeah, there's just stop signs here and there, but Fifth South, there's not a stop. Neither is there a pedestrian lane, but Provo City, correct me if I'm wrong, you don't necessarily do pedestrian lanes at every corner, but it's understood that is a pedestrian.
You mean the
right?
striping crosswalks?
Yes,
Right,
yes, sorry,
They
crosswalk.
don't typically stripe crosswalks in the neighborhoods, but yeah, there is that pedestrian right of way at the intersection.
So it's more of an understood thing, but yeah, that's a valid.
in situations like this, could it make sense to do striping?
So you would work with engineering and they would see if there's a warrant for it.
And I think, sorry, I'm just gonna interject. I think that's one of the things why we work with Natalie at the White Shanty. But I think that's one of the reasons we wanted to have both an entrance and an exit, so that to alleviate congestion just from one way in, so that there would be an entrance on 500 South and then another on 300 West. And I think that will help with the congestion a little bit, because you won't be having people coming in and out of the same area.
For driving, but you're more talking about pedestrian traffic.
Yeah, because I imagine, bakery's gonna serve as overflow parking for White Shanty for large wedding groups.
Okay, I
And there's
see.
gonna be a fair amount
I
of people
see.
crossing the street.
You know, they already are parking all along
Right.
the street anyway, so that probably won't be tons of difference. They'll just park there instead of all over.
So this is in relation to this, maybe you could do something like, put some larger street trees closer on. Or some sort of other traffic calming measures, that would be part of developing this land for the bakery that could help encourage drivers to slow down and be more attentive of people crossing the road.
And I don't know if businesses can't do that, like it would be viewed as, am I right, that the city
Yeah,
has to.
that's city engineering's call, and yeah, it's a whole different project that they have to get funded and everything else.
Those roads have gotten so crazy with the construction.
There's a Seinfeld episode where Kramer restripes the freeway.
Yes, I just wanted to applaud your project. I wish you lots of success. And I hope it sets a wonderful example for other parts of the city to be open to more venues like this. I think it really can serve neighborhoods well to have a corner store, a corner bakery. As the same reasons other people have mentioned, gets people out, gets people involved in talking and more involved in their community.
Great. Well, thank you. Thanks for your comments.
You're gonna serve coffee, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And it's my understanding that Rugged Grounds is gonna be probably booted, that whole development is gonna be a new thing in the next year, so it'll be nice to have a replacement coffee shop on that stretch.
Yes. I'm sorry. Have I been
that's totally fine.
standing too
That's
far?
totally fine.
Yes, please.
I live a couple of hundred feet from Provo Bakery. Within 20 pounds. No, actually, you know what? It's really awesome that you wanna do that. Because, after 10 years, I was able to, control myself. Because the smell of every day is so wonderful. So nice. And it's really nice to see couples that they go over there, and they buy this stuff for the kids. It's really nice. So go for it. I go buy something.
Great, thank you so much. Yes, we hope good smells throughout the neighborhood. Okay.
So the property just to the west of this is sort of a warehouse.
Yeah.
It is,
weird.
yeah,
And I'm wondering if there's a
in the
reason.
residential zoning, so I don't know. It's been there a long time and it maybe had a
Will the
mixed
zoning
use.
change help with redevelopment of that property?
I don't know.
Perhaps, so it is, right now it's legally non-conforming, so it's grandfathered in, but.
So that means that it preceded the zoning in that area, so it's allowed to sort of grandfather in.
Continue.
And then like Flex Pack is at the end of the street, right? Or whatever it's
Or
called.
yeah, at the
So it's another
on-
warehouse at the end of the street, and so it's
Yeah.
like surrounded by commercials. So.
Yeah, okay. Yes.
So I own a home a block away from here and we have not really been talked to about this. The concern is that mainly it's kind of a front to make more parking versus the bakery. And my concern is, we've talked about residential being an issue in the previous presentation. To change something to commercial from residential is concerning to the neighborhood. And why the additional parking? How much of this is gonna be paved versus building a bakery that has residential with it and not have parking, like paving over? So how much of this is paved parking?
Oh, yeah, I mean, currently
I know what it is currently, but like the project, how much of this is
it'll-
being
yeah,
a parking lot
it'll
versus
be
building?
paved. And if we wanted a parking lot, we'd just make a parking lot.
No, you can't. That's against the neighborhood plan.
Yes. Oh, okay. But I mean, like I said, we're not required because the White Shanty is in the transportation zone. So we're not required to have more parking. It'd just be sort of a perk of, it would be there, but.
So can the parking be eliminated and residential and a bakery be built on this property?
There would be parking standards.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
So the corner
Yeah,
store idea.
I mean, we're so early in the process, we haven't.
Then you need to know how many parking spots you're gonna have.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't.
Keep in mind, this is just an idea. She
Yeah.
hasn't even talked to development services
Right.
yet. She
We
hasn't
haven't
done an
set-
application yet. She has an idea and she wants to get feedback from the neighborhood for an idea that has not been fleshed out. She has not talked to any planners or anything yet. This is very early in the process.
So it sounds like they're saying they'd like there to
Yes.
be residential, that we
Yes,
would like
we want
residential.
residential.
Sounds like that's what they're saying.
Yes.
So I have a question about kind of what's your price point on what you're gonna serve there? Cause we have a bakery that's also downtown on Center Street. That's kind of a little bit more pricey. And so if you're gonna make it a neighborhood bakery, are you going to keep, what's your price point going to look like as you look at those kind of things? And then what's your target audience as you start to advertise to bring those people down there? Cause there's lots of traffic there, but I don't necessarily see a lot of foot traffic giving you some of those. They smell the nice smells and then like wander in. Cause I have a daughter who takes the train to school at the U and she doesn't walk past there. And so she's gonna miss out on me fattening her up, eating lots of donuts. So she's really scrawny, she needs more donuts. So, but so you would miss some of that demographic of those people who just walk straight towards the front. So I'm just wondering, as you look, if you can consider some of those points of who's your target audience as you're branding and as you're putting it out there, and then kind of what's your price point? Because we already have some hoity-toity kind of expensive bakeries in town. And so if you wanna be in our neighborhood, not that I want you in my neighborhood, but if you will be in the neighborhood, I'd like to see you a little bit more on the just neighborhood, affordable kind of thing.
Well, thank you. That's good input.
Yeah, I live down the street like Meg does too, and I, sorry to tell you, but every single business on Carson's Corner has failed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's a block away.
Ownership changes all the time. And you can tell me too, I was the neighborhood chair when White Shanty became White Shanty. I have no idea how many owners there have been since the first, what's their names, who were,
Right?
yeah, they were the first ones, and how many owners have there been since you?
Just, yeah, we bought it from them
Let's be
6 years
realistic. You might think you're gonna be helping each other out with your businesses, but like Michelle says, you're not on Freedom. You're gonna miss all of that traffic, and guess what? All that traffic doesn't even stop at Carson's Corner to get food. So, sorry, burst your bubble and everybody else's bubble, but it's a huge failure. I see it as a huge failure, because as soon as in a year, when it fails, what's gonna happen to it? It's just gonna be a parking lot for White Shanty, which ever since White Shanty opened up, all they do is block people's driveways. Yes.
So wouldn't it be good to have overflow theoretically?
No, because in the neighborhood plan, you're not allowed to build parking lots in the
No, but if
neighborhood.
at nighttime when the bakery's closed and there's excess parking.
That's the point. It's not supposed to be a parking lot for White Shanty. It's supposed to be a business.
Sure.
But it's not.
called
It's gonna be providing parking for the White Shanty.
At night.
And the neighborhood plan doesn't call for a parking lot.
I don't think you should build a building just to put a few stalls up.
Exactly. If we just wanted more parking, we wouldn't go to the expense of building a building that we hope fails so that we have more parking. That'd be a super
But that's what's gonna
expensive
happen.
parking.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's one of the
If
things.
the
that could
businesses
happen.
at Carson's Corner can't survive, I seriously doubt
Maybe they
this
weren't
is
the
gonna
best
survive.
businesses.
It depends on the kind of donuts you use. They're good, you get.
Is there gonna be lots of fun?
Yes.
We just talked about the Bill Harris property being developed just a few blocks away. I think there's gonna be.
There's all the residential going in, you know.
I think it'll be
east of there.
supported is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So, and with
Yeah,
the
I mean,
new
that's-
bike intersection.
That's the hope, and we absolutely, I mean, the additional parking in the evening is great, but like I said, we're not required to provide that. That's a very expensive way to get however many more parking spots for our venues, so that is, we're not trying to just sneak a parking lot there. Anyway, BYU, sorry.
I think there's a way to square all of these concerns and still bring in a business into that area. I think that it may fail, it may not. I think it's worth the investment. And maybe the path forward is to reform our R16 zone that it's in instead of the over, because by reforming that also helps the neighborhood I'm in Joaquin, that's R16. And I would also love to see more of these on the corner. And maybe we make it so that you don't have parking, and maybe you don't get to have that extra parking spot, but you're still contributing to a residential environment, a residential zone that gets to have this new baking thing that hopefully works, hopefully doesn't fail, but maybe it'll be very successful.
Anything else?
That's one thing that more mixed spaces in our environment, which is great. But I'm also hearing a lot of frustration that the current is not. So I don't live in the. might be ideal for you to address some of the concerns that are currently happening at White Shanty in the neighborhood, which would, I assume, will report the next project. And so if you can address some of the parking lot, showing that you do have some additional plans for the future, but if you address those things, that might make people more amenable.
We have more parking for the White Shanty, if that's, is that what you're saying?
Or if you like self-police it a little better, because what it sounds like is that people are just parking everywhere. I know that's really frustrating. But as a resident, there's like next to nothing you can do. It's not a neighbor who you see every time. It's someone who's coming from a different part of the state, who's only there for one night, but you can't get to work. You know, like, and so there's gotta be something, I think, that if you're going to do this new investment in the neighborhood, which I think is a lovely idea, I think you can also get a lot further by saying, look at how we're already trying to invest in this neighborhood and make the place that we coexist and benefit each other instead of ignoring the issues that seem to be festering.
Okay, yeah, I hope I'm not giving that, that vibe that I'm ignoring.
I think it would go a long way.
Okay, thank you.
We're running out of time. Shannon, did you have one last question?
I'll make a comment really quickly. I'm typically very opposed to changing anything with zone residential conservation into commercial or something other than residential conservation. I see this project, I don't live in the neighborhood, but I live a block and a half, 2 blocks this way. So I'm very familiar with this type of situation. I see this as being a boon for the neighborhood, in my personal opinion. I love being able to walk a block and a half to Mosita Market and getting meat, whatever from Mosita. It's been a great thing in our neighborhood, so. But again, I love what she said, just about working with the neighborhood on making the White Shanty and the issues, parking issues that are happening with the White Shanty. And letting the residents know that, you know, this is how you're going to address that and make that building shine. And I think the idea of a resident in it also would be very helpful, because then you still have the residential up above.
Yeah,
I think it's a great idea.
And it's needed. I know, you know, like we're talking about these projects with lots, but yeah, that's kind of our.
I think it's silly that people trash that it's gonna be extra parking, but then complain that there's no parking, because you're taking care of both the needs with that. So they don't want the parking, but then they complain about the parking.
I mean,
Well,
to
but
that degree though, it's just like the freeway. Building an extra lane does not decrease the freeway traffic. And so I think maybe people are a little bit jaded that by just building additional parking lots, it's just going to mean I can invite more people to my wedding because there's more parking available. And so I think that there's on both sides.
Yeah, yeah.
I get that. Compromise. Happy, right?
Okay, thank you so much, Natalie, for coming. Really quick, Daniel, I do have 5 copies of the staff report for the Jeff Knighton project. That's the ordinance change on the height and the minimum size of buildings that Bill Harris wants. So if anyone wants to grab one, they're just back here. Again, that's going to Planning Commission on December 11th. And we appreciate Natalie coming here before she even does any start of her project to hear your concerns. And thank you so much for giving your concerns. And these are just some other ways. If Natalie's project does end up going forward, if she decides that she wants to do an application, it will have to go to the Planning Commission, the City Council. If you live really close by, you'll get a postcard telling you when those meeting dates are. Check the website, check our social media, and you can always give feedback to the Planning Commission at dspublichearings@provo.org, to the council at council@provo.org. We'd love for you to actually come in person to the meetings and to speak, whether it's in favor or against. That's the reason why we have these meetings, so you can hear about these projects before they get to Planning Commission and City Council.
All right,
Moving right along, we're a little behind, so I'll announce the next few things quickly. Just wanted to quickly recognize City Council Member Whipple has joined us. Next, we'll have an update from the Provo School Board from School Board Member Terry McCabe. After that, Rachel Breen will read us 2 different traffic studies that have been done, one in Franklin South and one in Joaquin around Memorial Park. After that, she'll update us on the matching grant trees at the Asian Market idea. It's right over here across the street. And after that, we will have time for anyone who hasn't made a public comment yet to have a chance. Karen.
Sorry if you can't hear me, I'm losing my voice from having go next. So we just adopted our new strategic plan. If you want to know what it is, here's the QR code. Get your phones out. There's a whole bunch of QR codes in here. And these are our 3 priorities. We want to make Provo a destination district like it used to be. And the circle around the 3 priorities on the left here says family and community engagement. And the only way we can make that happen is if the community is involved. Next. And what we are doing is starting reworking our committees, and we're doing it the way the city council does their committees. So go to this QR code so you can apply to be on a committee. And we need people, if you don't have children or grandchildren, we also need you on the committee because you pay property taxes, right? So that's one of the things we need help with. Is we need your voices and we need your help in making decisions. So go to this QR code and there's an application to apply. It goes, you can pick which committee you want to be on. Your name gets in a pool, and then when it's time for a new member of the committee, we'll pull your name out of the pool and you get picked on the committee. So just like the way the city does it, okay? And then if you're a parent, especially if you are a middle school and high school parent, this will be very important. We're implementing our new cell phone policy starting January 7th. And you probably got an email this week. If you want to know the details of it, go to this QR code. Yeah, good luck. Yeah.
Our middle schools though they for many years now have had a strict cell phone policy. So for our middle schools, it's actually not going to be different than what they want.
Yeah, I think
and Provo High has this year started more or less this policy. So they've started kind of.
Yeah. So the school that's going to have the biggest growing pains is probably Timp. So. Okay, go next. We need your feedback on what to do with Dixon. And not only that, we need your feedback on how to fund Dixon. So there's a couple of options. If you go to the QR code, there's options on what we want to do. And then there's options of how we need to fund it. And there's 2. One is a MBA, a municipal bond authority, which means that the board will decide on, okay, we're gonna vote for this bond and we decide. And then a GO bond or general obligation bond is that you guys get to vote on it next November on how to fund our schools. So the one thing the board did decide last week in our board meeting was that Timp phase 2 needs to be funded and Dixon needs to be funded. So if we're gonna do one, we have to do the other the same. We can't just do 2 different kinds of bonds. So if we do an MBA for Timp, we have to do an MBA for Dixon. That's the example. So go to the QR code and tell us what you like. Is that it? Yeah. Any questions, anybody, about anything to do with the school districts or any schools? Okay.
No, there's a question.
Oh,
Sorry.
Could we post those links on the like Facebook group? Just like the QR codes or whatever, so that way they can be
Yes.
publicly accessible.
We'll have them in the
You can go to
newsletter
the
or
school-
school district
You can
website
go to the
has
school
them.
district's website and it's on the front page. You just have to wait for it to scroll over. Yeah. Take your time. Yeah.
Is there a timeline on when this, cause same, my daughter's on my phone and I'm like.
Timeline for feedback on Dixon?
Yes, like.
Yeah, but not soon.
Okay.
You still have like at least till Christmas break.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Oh, Meg, did you want to say something? I was just gonna say that I'm a parent of a child that goes to Timp Elementary right now. And there's several options you'll see when you go on there if you're not familiar with what's happening with the Dixon site. And one of those is the idea of moving to, oh, here's my child that goes to Timp Elementary. One of the options is moving Timpanogos Elementary over to the Dixon site. Well, Dixon is not structurally sound, for those who don't know, so something's gonna have to be built there.
Yeah, the building will be demolished no matter
what. So that's, I'm not, destroying history. History is already going to be destroyed. Anyways, I'm just saying, anyways, no matter what, we have to do it. So one of the options is moving to Timpanogos Elementary over there, and I just, I think I'm working with some parents over there, and trying to, we're writing a letter and getting some information out, but just that site is a much larger site and would be a better space for our students at Timpanogos Elementary. The principal feels that way, and I think there's a lot of us parents who are on board with that. So as you go in there and give feedback, just know that there are many of us who send our children there who would love to see them have more space, both indoor space and outdoor space, that's more in line with what other students in the district are.
That is one of the options.
Yeah.
I have so many mixed feelings on that question and the comment that was just made. Let me just say, it's been that school's been open 15 years. Timpanogos has been open 15 years. And so the idea, as a taxpayer, the idea that we built a purpose-built elementary school, and now we're just gonna throw it away and build a new purpose-built elementary school just drives me up the wall. I love that we have a strategic plan now. Now that I see it and can scroll through it a little bit, I think it's a wonderful first step from where we've been. But the fact that our strategic plan is just 5 years, and some of these decisions, we should be building schools for 50 years, not 15 years. And so I feel like this is a good first step. I sure hope that the district continues to do strategic planning, but also in addition to the 5 years, have a 20-year plan, have a 50-year plan, have a facility plan, so that we're not building something on Dixon now and 15 years later saying, oh, you know what? We're gonna spend another $100 million somewhere else. And I know there's some difficulties with how Timpanogos was built, and I understand that was a different board, and that was 15 years ago, but still, it was only 15 years ago. Again, it drives me batty that 15 years later, we want to walk away from that school, and it seems, yeah, anyway, sorry.
We actually won't.
Will be built in that space.
We actually won't be abandoning Timpanogos if that happens. In that scenario, Dixon would be an elementary school and Timpanogos would be the Timpanogos Education Center, which is a CTE school.
Right, but if you built a purpose-built CTE school, it would look very different than how Timpanogos would look, and it would cost, anyway, sorry,
Yeah.
I just
Have you ever
hope-
renovated your house and then changed your mind? Things change, it's okay.
Okay, maybe I'm just uneducated on the topic, but what is happening to Dixon Middle School? Where's it being absorbed? Sorry, I'm normally naturally loud, sorry. What's gonna happen to Dixon Middle School students? Like, where's that middle school being
They're at
absorbed?
Shoreline.
They're at Shoreline now?
Already.
So
School
did they?
started in August.
Yeah, well, I have one, but he doesn't go there. But my concern is in that community, there's a lot of, I have friends that live on that side, and there's a lot of children that are children of parents that maybe don't value education as high, or they just can't get their kids to school. because of just different reasons. Is there a bus route?
Yes.
That we can inform them about? Okay, I was like, surely there's something there, but I don't know why their kids, I'm just concerned. I'm like, why is this kid not in school? He's missing out on a free education. So, okay, thank you.
Can I just add, Dave, thank you for your comments. I think part of this, we are in the middle of doing a feasibility and boundary study as a school district, which I think in tandem with the strategic plan, while stewardship of resources is one of the priorities, which includes our buildings, the specific ones for the next 5 years, we highlighted our teachers are our greatest resource. But I think the feasibility and boundary study is kind of that second part of needing a longer term plan when it comes to facilities. The 5 years is more like, okay, how are we adjusting instruction and these type of things so we can really hone in, right? Which I agree, we also do need this longer term planning when it comes to facility management and whatnot. So the feasibility study is happening now. Dixon, nothing will happen on Dixon until 2026. So that feasibility study can help inform this decision as well, which I think plays into having a more long-term plan. So I don't know if that helps a little, I mean, just to kind of give that picture as well. And I think, yeah, appreciate it.
When will that feasibility study be done?
Hopefully by June. We're gonna have our first report on the feasibility study. I'm pretty sure in January. Is it January or February?
March. We're not really sure yet.
You're not making any decisions until that feasibility study is done, right? On what
Dixon,
to do with.
yes, that's a word because we won't be doing anything until 2026 anyway. So yes,
Because
that is the idea, is that we would wait until
the Boys and Girls Club is using the safe parts of Dixon right now. So, and they have a contract, and so we can't do anything until the contract's over.
So the feasibility study should be done in June. That is the projected timeline for it. So
any other
so I think that informs the timeline of feedback. That's why we have some time here to continue to get feedback. So
any other questions? And a reminder, Caleb, our communications director, sent an email today about calendars for future school years. So make sure you fill that out and give your preference as to what calendar you want. All right, thank you.
We're gonna tear through these traffic studies. These were done by Vern Kiesler, our traffic manager. And these will be posted on the Facebook page and in the newsletter. So this one is on 500 West, which is a minor arterial road, and also 1200 South, which is a collector road. And crash data, he always does crash data for like the last 3 years. So 2 crashes were reported, both in 2022, both right here at this intersection. And going on, he had the monitors, he had one here on 1200, one on 500. And he had these in April is when he did the study. And I'm just gonna do the kind of summary right here. So 2 crashes were reported on 500 West. The posted speed limit on both these streets is 25 miles an hour. The average speed was 34 miles per hour. And the 85 percentile, that is 85% of the cars are going this speed or slower, was 42 miles per hour. And they do get about 200 vehicles per hour. And then on 1200 South, the average speed was 28 miles per hour. The 85th percentile was 37 miles per hour, and about 237 vehicles per hour. I'm gonna go back here really quick. These are some surprising results. So they also checked the highest speed on 500 West. They had 11 of them in the 50 to 55 mile per hour category. Again, it's 25 miles per hour. And they had 2 in the 70 to 75 miles per hour category. And this one, I don't even know how it's possible because that road is so short and so small, but the highest speeds were in the 66 to 70 mile per hour category. And they had 5 of those going that fast on that little tiny road. So kind of his suggestion is he's already provided the speed information to the police department. And he's also suggesting that there be a speed radar trailer put there in that location. So he is working on that one. This next one, this is 800 East, another traffic study. This is the street that goes right down the middle of Memorial Park. That 800 East, we had a request to do a traffic study there. No crashes in the last 3 years. And you had the monitor right there, kind of in the middle of the park area. The speed results, this was done in September. Again, the speed limit is 25 miles per hour. The average speed was 14 going northbound, 23 going southbound. I mean, yeah, 23 going southbound. There was a few that got up into the 36 to 40. But most people are going below the speed limit on that street. Not very many vehicles, 17 vehicles per hour. I guess overall total both directions, 34 vehicles per hour. So his summary is 0 crashes, posted speed limit is 25, average speed is 15. Even the 85 percentile is 26 miles per hour. So his suggestions are none are needed on that street. He's not when he puts in his report, it's not showing speeding or anything like that. Yes.
Just one suggestion for the future, if we could have a different color than that green,
I
it's so hard to
know,
read.
I know. I need to talk to him about the green. Every district complains and I'm here like squinting my eyes trying to see it. So, and then he gave just kind of a little history of Memorial Park. He kind of, and I'll put these on the website. There was these National Geographic had a little article on Memorial Park with photos. I think this was done in 1936. They had a little article on Memorial Park. This is what it used to look like back in the 30s. Some counts of old postcards of Memorial Park.
That's a real question. What happened since 1936?
Yeah.
Other than climate change. What has happened?
Yeah, I'm not sure. He did say, he talked about how, yeah, it used to have a greenhouse, tennis court, pond, lawns and flowers.
But no bathrooms.
Yeah.
Still no bathrooms.
Still no bathrooms. Cool.
And he says
My kid peed on the tree
a
the other day.
memorial was put up in 2001. But no, kind of fun. And we'll put those up in the newsletter and on the Facebook page. Oh, yes, question?
Okay, so kind of, I have a comment about both traffic studies. I'm a civil engineer, so I understand what these things are maybe more. There's a plan to get rid of that road that goes through Memorial Park, right?
There's a wish to get rid of that. There
I
is
know,
no,
like in the
city has no plan to
Okay,
do it. I know
because-
residents have plans, but the city has no plan.
Some residents.
Some residents, excuse me, some residents.
I believe I read it in the 20 or 30-year vision vibes plan, like not a specific plan, but eventually I think there's a lot of support to remove that road, right?
No. That's not what I've heard from the traffic manager, Counselor Whipple. Have you heard anything?
No, are you saying that's in the general plan or?
I don't remember which plan it was. It was it was a 2022, 2023 general development
Yeah.
plan maybe.
I mean, it's an interesting question, and since we are going to be doing kind of planning because it's been so long, we will probably have those conversations, and I'm very confident that engineering will want to keep the street.
Yeah.
I can't remember the reason, but they've given it. It just hasn't
Right.
gone through my brain and stayed. But they
No.
have a very valid reason of why they want to.
I'm sure I could give them very valid reasons why it should be gone, but we'll, I mean, we can have that conversation then. I think let's restore it to that, right? Like, that'd be amazing. And then about the other thing, can we try and emphasize natural traffic calming instead of radar. Cause radar is not as effective as a raised crosswalk or.
Right,
as-
he
as-
has to do all these tests to warrant if he can do other traffic calmings. So the state has all these rules, so he has to get all this feedback before he can do what the state allows him to do
That's a
as far as
state
traffic
law
calming.
thing.
Yes, is a
Not
state
much
law.
Are you wanting like chicanes and things like that?
I don't know. What chicane.
Like to make the road, like.
Oh, no. I think those are a
Make it
little
cur-
silly.
Okay.
So Vern Kiesler has told us, a few of us, we did a grant proposal a couple of years ago for the little roundabout at Second to the North and Second to East, and turn that down. But we have about, if people are interested, we could do an asphalt art project, which would be appropriate types of paint on sidewalks and or streets, the crosswalks, whatever we propose. And that's something that we have about a 2-month time period to come up with a really good proposal. I know Vern would help us with it. Oh, the previous cycle, the funding was limited to $25,000 per project. It's $100,000 per project.
And it doesn't just have to be Memorial Park. It could be
So,
other
yeah,
sites
but-
that
but
we
that-
think needs
But
it.
that section of 8 East is one that Vern and I had kind of talked about, well, maybe this would be a good place for it. So
Cool.
if you're interested, please talk to me, David Keller.
Sorry, yes, one more.
I know for those who are concerned about the road through Memorial Park, just looking at this traffic study, seeing how low volume traffic it is, wouldn't like traffic filtering be okay to do there? Because if you did traffic filtering on the north end or the south end, you could still have access, people could still access the park to visit the memorial. But along with an art fixture or something, it would make it feel a lot safer, or maybe bulb outs, even if we don't do traffic filtering, just that corner. A lot of children, they cross it all the time. And if the volume is as low as the traffic study is saying normally, it would make, I think it would make sense that we wouldn't necessarily need it for all that traffic.
So
If
Kara,
it's so
will you
low.
explain traffic filtering for the many people
Okay,
who
so
don't know
traffic
what that
filtering-
is?
Googled it.
So traffic filtering means like there's either like bollards or things that narrow it so that it's either one lane or pedestrians and cyclists can access it from one side, but cars can't from that side. Does that make sense?
So
It
like-
makes it
one way.
So-
One way for cars, right?
Like, there's one way, if it's at the north end or the south end, like, you decide, like, which way cars can go in. But knowing that there is only one side that cars can access it, so further lowering the volume. Or at least indicating, hey, this space is different than the rest of the road, so that it can be even safer. Because I know that road was there before the park, but the fact is there's a park there. And lots of people use it and lots of children use it. So if the volume of cars is so low anyways, why not give it more to, you know, people instead of cars.
Yeah, so the red dot where the radar was is just slightly south of where I would have hoped. I really wish it had been at 150 and 200 and 800 right there. That is my kids are at this park every single day. And that is the intersection where the cars speed through, is at the intersection as they approach the park. I would love to see filtering here at the top of the park through bollards or narrowing it down to one lane. It definitely would help. And I think we could keep the street there if we could just, you know, it's already low volume. I don't think it would be a high, I don't know, a big problem to the drivers there to, since it already is such a low volume per hour, to go an extra block to 700 if they really need to go around, or to 900. It's.
But I think what he's saying is they have no interest in that, right?
the city as a whole has no interest in that. The residents may, but the city does not. Engineering does not.
Well, that's for closing it, but maybe they would be okay with the filtering proposal, especially if that preserves emergency access, which is usually the reason that they give for wanting to keep streets like this.
Yeah, there was a few months ago, there was an accident on 900 East that meant this emergency access had to be used because there is the fire station nearby. But the other thing that's great is 800 East is already an established neighborhood bikeway.
Yeah.
And so using that bikeway and encouraging building on the low volume there and just encouraging bike traffic through there. I love that.
Yeah. So learn about this.
How can we bring this, like, is this an engineering thing or a city council or joint?
This is mostly an engineering thing, but it's the kind of thing that the neighborhood and counselors can express support for and say, we want to have conversations about this. As you're looking at, improving this bikeway and the connectivity and safety for pedestrians and cyclists in this area, this is a high value target for us. Yeah, so we got 2 different chances to talk about it. Already built in. We can, and the more we bring this up, the more the idea becomes obvious. Like, of course we need to do this. We're hearing here and here and here. So something will happen eventually.
I'll pass this, I've written them down and I'll pass them along to Vern and I'll let you know what's going on.
I have a logistical question about like studies and things, because it is encouraging, again, I live a block away from this, we're there all the time. It's encouraging that the data that we have is not showing like an egregious amount of speeding through there, even though that's what it feels like when I have my toddlers trying to cross the road. And I guess my question is, what kind of study could be done in order to count close calls? Because what I see a ton of times is people are crossing and it's and they are like, oh, there's a person. And that doesn't necessarily show up on the data, right? And I don't even know how you would do that.
Because we need people to report it.
Okay.
So you would report it, you can report it to the police online.
Okay.
You can just do it. You can just go on the city website. They have report, something to the police. You can say, there was a close call, or sometimes there's a very small accident and they don't report it at all. And you can say, hey, there was an accident here. Okay. So then that way it gets, when he does his crash data, if no one's reporting these near misses or these crashes, it's not going to show up on his crash data, which means it's not going to allow him to make changes according to the state code.
And I guess without like veering into being like an obnoxious neighborhood report. But if someone is like veering around us in like the pedestrian right of way, like is that the kind of thing that we report then? Or is it really, that's more for like, I saw a hit and run?
Right, I mean, of course, if you saw a hit and run or any type of car accident that you see, you can definitely report it. We are going to, in the end of January, beginning of February, we're getting a Provo City app. So where you can do it right on your phone, take a picture, it'll know exactly where you are and you can submit it that way. You can do a mailing list, super easy.
Like a 311 report.
Yes.
So it is 311 that you're saying, or different? Police is different.
Well, if there's an actual accident, you can report it on the online police thing. Don't call the police.
Yeah.
But you can always do it through 311.
Way, like, I frequent these parks, I would not know about this option going to the website. I often see signs like, no smoking, report this, if you see something, say something sign. Is there a way that you can put like one of those awful green background signs on there and reflective and just put it at the parking lot? So if you see something where there's a near miss, please go to, we're gonna have an app or something to inform the neighborhood other than just
I don't see that happen.
I know, but is there like a sign or?
They are going to, when the new website and app come out, you're gonna do a whole media blitz telling people exactly how to use the app, how the new website works and all that, so people will know.
A year or two ago, I was told Dixon don't count for anything.
Oh, okay. So maybe not the near misses, but if you see like a little fender bender.
So I guess my question is, but the near misses are almost killing someone. So why are we waiting until we have data that kills someone to not count near misses into our decision making?
Yeah.
It's an industry standard that should probably be changed.
Yeah, that's what I was
Yeah.
told.
Yeah.
I was told that it's
Makes
that
sense,
no
yeah.
action will be taken unless there's data with fatalities or injury. And it's like, well, there's lots of places where there's lots of close calls, and I was told, well, that just means it's working well enough that people aren't getting hurt. or
Well
killed.
enough.
And it's like, no, wait, so
That means your
I
angels
feel,
went
I
overtime.
feel like I need assurance
Child
that if I reach
Yeah.
out to the city or I reach out to police.
I think
that
we
with
also
blood
need to
safe-
understand that the city is not in charge of making sure you don't get in an accident. Like, we also need to do maybe a campaign, educational campaign. Stop looking at your phone when you're driving, pay attention to the speed limit. Because we can't fix every road for every contingency. And please understand that this road here with 0 crashes, people are going below the speed limit. I've got District 1 with a road with 19 crashes. And people going super fast, and so this is probably gonna be way low on their priority list. But I am gonna send him the information about the, narrowing or bollards or bulb outs or.
That they follow, you don't follow the standards, and so the standards you have to be changed. It's not by Provo City, but it's some other.
Before we stop at 800 and 100, like just anything. Right now, we don't even have yield signs.
The state.
I know, I'm just saying like,
Yeah.
there are lots of ways that we could approach it, and I don't think any of them are necessarily bad or wrong.
Right.
And I'm glad that the data is showing that no one has had like serious impact or injury. And I guess my worry is that, are we waiting until we have an irrevocable disaster that we can't take back before we do something?
He might be, but he has to follow
Yeah.
by law.
Yeah, you can always talk to your state representatives, since that's their. Okay, super quick. Rob Slater, he's the one that did our matching grant project. I don't know if you've seen. By Fresh Market, it looks so good. He was so proud of himself, he wants to do another one.
Yay.
And so, but he wants to do it in front of, just across the street, in front of the Asian Market and Rena Center, where there's just that huge swath of cement. He would love to put in some trees. It might have to be trees and big planters or something. He wants to know if residents would support him in maybe applying for a matching grant for this.
Did he talk to them about that? Cause I feel like sometimes I see the truck from Rent-A-Center pulled up on that.
I am not sure what he's done. I know he's talked to UDOT, he's talked to Provo City. I don't know if he's talked to the owners. He has to talk to the owners before he does anything.
The last meeting I was in, something about the Rent-A-Center being turned into something else. Do you know anything about that? Art,
was like a
like an indie theater or
Oh,
something.
no, that's
No,
next
that's
to.
next to it.
the
Next to it,
Rent-A-Center.
okay, not the Rent-A-Center.
The empty lot, well, their arts cinema, where Roasted Artichoke used to be.
Yeah, Rent-A-Center did not want to.
So, I mean, he can always apply, and then the board would say, and then he would, in order for him to do it, he would have to get permission from UDOT, Provo City, and the property owners. But he's just wondering if that's something residents think would be nice to have more trees and greenery.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I'll tell him to go ahead on that.
The city will pay for those trees?
It's part of our
Is that part
matching.
of the area?
It's actually the big grant that Chaz Addis talked about does not cover that area. But we can use your district matching grant, which is what he used for here. It's $7,500, which he can use to try to.
Does anybody have anything to say that has not yet been said?
60-second thing.
Go
I'm
for
starting
it.
my
This is your
timer.
time.
Okay, last time we talked about a park in this kind of Franklin South near the front runner station, because we're building all of these, and they just talked today about even increasing the height, right? And so we're having all this density, but we don't really have any public land. We don't have a park. There's not really, and these buildings are not providing any outdoor green space for people. You know, what, minus the little public Provo Park on 300 South and University Avenue that no one would ever want to go to. So, we talked about doing a park there, and I've got a contact of a person who can help us maybe walk through how to work with the city and look into that. But I don't live in that neighborhood, so you need someone who lives there. I think it'll be, and I think most of us don't live in that neighborhood. You do?
I do.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, good. So that was my 60 seconds that they should come talk to me so I can connect people.
Just to update you on that, I actually had an idea for a neighborhood pocket park that I presented to Parks Department just on my own as a citizen.
Lovely.
They were not able to convince the owner of the relevant land to sell that land. They refused, so that particular idea couldn't happen. But I know that they are now aware, because of my presentation, that there is a level of service hole in Eastern Franklin South. They know about that. They have their eye on a couple of other properties across from the front runner that they would love to get. There will also be lots of competition for them if and when they ever become available. So Parks knows, Parks wants to do something about it. I want to do something about it, and I'm glad you want to do something about it. Great.
Okay, I've got a public comment on Zoom. Says, I understand that a new developer has been chosen to redevelop the block on Center Street where the old city center used to be. I would love for more information to be available to the community. Who's the developer? What's the timeline? And how can we get involved in future decisions? I looked this up. Nothing has been submitted to development services for any type of planning application, so I have zero information.
They're having conversations with people, but there's no plan, there's no contract to buy the land or to build anything yet. So everything is too preliminary to make a decision or have a comment on.
But do know that when things do come, like we'll talk about them in these meetings, like we will talk about it. Also have one more comment. Now there's a new policy in that all traffic studies need to go through the neighborhood program. So I had a request for a traffic study on 900 West over, I think, just a couple of blocks past Dixon on 900 West. I've heard before there's been lots of speeding on that road. Is that something the community wants, a speed study on 900 West? Do you feel?
How far north or south?
I think it's like Center Street to about like 500 North, somewhere in there.
Yes.
Is that where we're having a lot of speeding?
Yes.
Yeah, that's part, kids cross that to get to Timpanogos Elementary.
Yeah, that's scary.
So that's part of their safety.
There like 20 years ago. It is a very fast.
It's very bad. Okay, so we're all okay with
Are
sending
these
that?
expensive? Like, can we get 5 per year? Like how?
They're not expensive, they're just, we had one where a resident had contacted the traffic manager saying, I want a traffic study on my street. The street was like one block long, stops, and it was like, but he felt like he had to do it because it was requested, but it really was a non-issue. And so now the traffic manager is saying, and even the board members and the residents were like, why are we wasting our time with a traffic study here when we could have one on a busier street? So now he wants to make sure it's an area that you really feel like needs a traffic study. And it sounds like 900 West does.
900 West and 500 North where the kids cross.
So 900 and 500?
Yeah.
Okay.
But all the way down to Center Street.
Here too, there's another children's crosswalk.
Yeah.
200
Just know that this is time consuming for him, and he has a lot of responsibilities, so he tries his hardest to do this, but these ones that are really not necessary are really.
Yeah, that's what I was asking.
Right, I counted, he did over 50 traffic studies since this program started. So in 2 years, he's done over 50, he used to come and present them at every meeting. It's just too much. It's too much. So it's a lot of traffic studies. So he wants to make sure it's really worth it. But it sounds like this one is.
So is there not
Okay.
another, like, is there like somebody else that could also assist with, because it seems like the traffic in the city is getting so much that he just can't take on that load on his own. That's a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
to do.
it's a lot.
Is there another another person, or is there like a group that can help with traffic studies? I know obviously it goes through state stuff, but
Could he have more staff?
yeah, there we go. But I don't know. That's, I mean,
Yeah.
Every
is
time,
it in the budget?
every time I talk to Vern, he's like, I'm just swamped, I'm
Yeah.
so busy, and I'm like,
He's
you're doing so
swamped.
much good work.
Well, you have to
Could you have
understand,
someone
I mean, we
else
just got a
help
new
you?
public works director who wasn't boss, right? It takes time to staff things, and also, I'm pretty sure since this has been a hot popular thing, everybody wants a traffic study for every road, right? And it's in 5 different districts, it's become a lot. This wasn't a thing a year ago, right? This just started to gain momentum. And so this is just more on his workload, on top of trying to fill in for the responsibilities that they have for a missing person and all the things that is on his plate. And he's got the train more thing, because he's our train specialist. He's our traffic engineer. We're missing a city engineer. And Vern is pretty seasoned, and so he's well needed. He does have an engineer that doesn't have as much experience as him that helps him, and they do have interns, but at the same time, the volume of asks, especially at the neighborhood meetings, is become quite a bit.
Are they hiring civil?
I don't know, I haven't seen anything on my.
Because people are, you're saying there's positions that are missing, so I feel like one person per district would be, you know, or at least one intern per district should probably help with that overflow.
We need to clone Vern, I
If
think.
we are over time, so if we could move on to the next subject, that'd be awesome. I believe I saw a hand over here.
I just, I could use ideas. So across the street from me, there's a huge, beautiful tree with a huge branch that's resting on a utility line. I've called, over the last 4 years, I've called Comcast, CenturyLink, Google Fiber, Provo City Power, Provo City Power Forester. They all said it's not their responsibility. And it's putting so much weight that the pole, the nearest pole is leaning, the next pole across 300 South is leaning over. And I think there should be a way to do something about that before it's an emergency.
What is it?
I don't know. And that's why I called everyone to see
So
who
did
could
you
tell me
call-
what utility it is.
Chaz was here at first.
Yeah.
First.
I
And you
was
spoke
late.
with Chaz?
I have spoken with Chaz.
They don't know.
I
whose
spoke with Jake
utility
at
it
Provo
is?
Power. Jake's been to my house for a project of mine recently. He got eyes on it. And the pole guy, I had a pole put into my house and the pole guy was at my house. He was like, those aren't our poles. But I don't know. I want to help. It may affect me, it may affect my neighbors when it's an emergency. And I just don't know what to do at this point.
I think you have to figure out who it is, but usually Energy is pretty good at figuring that out, so if they don't know, I can't direct you.
Like maybe they're abandoned lines or something. Like it looks like they're in use, but if there's an emergency, it would shut down 300 South. Like if this
those
falls,
poles fell.
yeah, there'd be dropped lines on 300 South. So
I've just had experience with this, but if it is the actual power, they're usually right on it. A lot of those old cable lines are abandoned old cable lines and nobody wants to deal with it. So I don't know if it's the actual power it's touching, but if it's the other ones, they all just throw their hands in the air. Nobody wants to.
The Google Fiber told me that they never do anything unless it's an emergency. Like if you want your fiber jack moved in your house, you have to cut it and tell them, oh, it got cut, I needed help. Like they literally won't come out and proactively do something, but it could be an Xfinity, that's true.
Is it on public or private land?
The poles are on Park Strip,
They're in the park strip?
yeah.
You know, I had the same issue but in my backyard. I had one pole that was probably about 70 degrees and we were gonna fly it on top of the car. I called Provo City and they actually changed the pole. It was bending. Actually, they replaced it in another area, close enough. it's gonna straight forward, but the other one is still there. So I have two poles now in there, and but then I called Google, I called at that time Xfinity, and nobody cares.
Yeah.
I don't wanna cut it. I said, okay, I wanna cut these cables, but I'm afraid.
That's what I should do. It's just,
Yep.
I don't know.
I will dare do that.
Related to this, I've called Pro City about all the lines over my backyard before. And they told me that about 85% of all the lines in Provo are like dead and not even being used. It seems when you have that high of a percentage of useless stuff dangling around, that we can come up with some kind of program to get rid of it. So it would be really great, I think, if we had some kind of concerted effort from the city cleaning up some of this.
Okay, thank you very much. Comments? Please say no. Okay, quickly, one last reminder before we go. There will be a special all districts meeting with Mayor Michelle Kafusi and the Provo City Department heads on Wednesday, February 5th at 6 p.m. at City Hall. The next, right here really, next Neighborhood 5 district meeting will be Wednesday, March 19th at 6 p.m. right here. We'll meet our new board members and elect new chair, vice chairs, and secretary in March. Thank you all for coming. Have an excellent night.